This is Striking Gold. I'm Sterling Sincotta. Clark Kirby, welcome to Striking Gold, mate.
Great to be here, Sterling.
You're the CEO of Village Roadshow, and before we get stuck into that, I want you to take me back. Let's go back to where you grew up, and we'll get through to how all roads lead to Village.
Great. All right. Well, let's kick off. So I'm going to preempt this question because I get it asked all the time.
Right.
So people ask me about my name, Clark. Is it anything to do with Superman?
Yeah, you do have a little Clark Kent vibe.
Well, we were distributing, my family was distributing Superman at the time I was born. I think there was a little bit of concern about how it would release, and I think my father just said, look, the film is that bloody good, I've named my son Clark.
Is that right?
That's right.
Dead
So that was the genesis of it.
Right. So they were distributing here in Australia?
They were. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that was Warner Brothers at the time. But that's sort of a funny little entree into the fact that, I was very fortunate, in terms of being born into an entertainment family. And, some of those very first memories that I have was just this being surrounded by this fantastical world.
Right,
and,
I can imagine. And where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, that's where our head office was.
Right.
My grandfather was, and we started Village back in the 1950s. But, it was still a really, I guess, very entrepreneurial, company at that time. We still like to think we are now. But at that time we were in all sorts of things. But I just remember going into my father's office, or, into the Village offices then, from age about 5 or 6, and just, it was just this incredible feeling of creativity, of that sort of movie magic. There's memorabilia, posters around, creative people running around. And it was just this playground for a child, obviously.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That sort of started my fascination. And, I was fortunate that, during all of that time, most of my childhood, I worked in our cinema because the genesis of our business was in cinemas.
Yeah, let's go back there. So,
Sure.
So they were, by distribution, you mean that they had physical...
Well, taking, if you don't mind, I'll quickly go back to how Village really started.
Yeah,
so it
okay,
started
great.
by my grandfather, Clark Kirby, back in 1954. Now, my grandfather was a bit of a larrikin. Probably was all his life.
Yeah.
Didn't complete much schooling. Ended up going to the war and fought in New Guinea. Spent a lot of time. Really had no education at that point, but spent a lot of time working with the American GIs over there. And they told him about this thing called drive-in theatres, which were a huge thing in America at the time.
Right.
And so he came back to Australia, pretty much no prospects, no money, decided he'd give this drive-in theatres a go.
Wow.
Because it seemed like a cheap way of getting into business.
Yeah.
Find an empty paddock and get a screen up. So Pictures in a Paddock was born, as he first called it. It didn't really take off, so he went to the drive-in. And that was really where we started as Village Cinemas, or Kirby Theatres at that time.
Right, and at the time there were physical cinemas.
Yep.
And what brands were they around back then
So
in the 50s,
there were still, I think Hoyt's was still there at that time, but most of the cinema chains were actually owned by...
Independents, were they?
No, they were actually owned by the studios.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was a very controlled market.
Right.
And that's actually quite interesting because when we actually started to grow and we built a network of drive-in theatres around the country, and we moved into traditional hardtop cinemas, as you know. It was back before the ACCC, so there was a concerted effort by all the incumbents to say, well, we're not going to give them any product.
Right.
As we know through COVID, cinemas without any product don't do very well.
Yeah.
So we were pretty much on the...
So you were limited by distribution of the main movies released at the time.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So it's right at that time, it was, I don't know, I couldn't say it's fortuitous, but it was just coincidental. My grandmother's father passed away, left them a small sum of money, a couple of £1,000.
Right.
And right at that time, also, Warner Brothers were looking for distribution in Australia.
So Warner Brothers being the production studio in the US?
Correct.
And at the time, they had no presence in Australia?
They had no presence in Australia.
But they were releasing their movies?
They were releasing their movies through other people, but they wanted to have a pure distributor for their films.
Right.
So my grandfather took that couple of £1,000, rented an office for 3 months in one of the swankiest buildings in Melbourne. My grandmother was his EA, and the one other person he had in the company was supposedly his accountant. Didn't know anything about numbers, but they brought him through this incredible looking office, and Warner Brothers were incredibly impressed. Yeah. I think they actually took Warner Brothers on a tour around the whole floor on this particular office.
Okay.
All just departments that they had no connection to. This is our accounting department over here. This is our marketing department over there. Lo and behold, it worked out great. They had a great rapport. They started that relationship, and that was back in, I think, 1971.
Right.
So this is 54 years later.
Yes.
We're still Warner Brothers' longest relationship anywhere in the world.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you've now headed in. So let's talk. So you now got you call it what, the hard top cinema?
Yeah. So hardtop cinemas also, and then and that's when we got into distribution of Warner Brothers titles.
So what some of those? Do you know what some of those early titles were that were starting to come through? Early 70s.
Well, one of the I can't recall what I can't recall off the top of my head, but I'll tell you one film that we did take to them, which was a production, little Australian film called Mad Max.
Oh, wow.
So that was written in my father's office with George Miller.
Wow.
Back in the day, and that was his first ever film. George Miller's first ever film.
Right, is it?
And so we took that to Warner Brothers, and so in fact
so you took it to them as a producer?
As a producer.
Yep.
So we actually produced it ourselves.
Oh, right, okay.
And then we sold them half of their production, and it was one of their biggest films still today of all time.
I could imagine.
So, now look, we've had we've had this wonderful relationship with Warner Bros. We've built cinemas in 22 different countries with them. We've had built theme parks out here, which we'll touch on. But I mean, again, even to that point, most people think that this was Warner Brothers' idea and blueprint. We actually took the idea of Warner Brothers Movie World on the Gold Coast to Warner Brothers.
Right. And that was the world first?
World first, yeah.
Is there any now across the world?
There are two. There was one other there's another in Spain and in Germany. They both didn't really perform quite as well.
Right.
They've just relaunched one in Abu Dhabi, and we continue to look at opportunities through Asia with them about actually re-engaging in some international opportunities.
Right. I think some of the best movies to watch are the ones that take you behind the scenes, where they're movies about making movies.
Yeah.
And there's that Hollywood magic and the spark that goes in behind them, and some, and to some extent the nostalgia that goes in to producing these movies. So safe to say you obviously you got the bug very early.
Yep.
At what point did you think, was it a foregone conclusion that you'd at some point be then working within the business? Did you have thoughts about?
Oh, look, I can tell you. So it was an interesting thing. That's what all I wanted to do since I was 5 years old, walking into my father's office and saying, "This is incredible." There was, I loved cinema, I loved film. And at that point, we weren't in theme parks, but I just loved being around that. So I wanted to do that. I flirted with the idea of being a director, but I just loved the business. But it was no way was it a foregone conclusion, because we were already a public company at that. Well, a few years later, in 1989, we became a public company.
Yeah.
So that was a very different thing, and sort of that avenue wasn't necessarily opened up to me. But I worked in every facet of the business right through my schooling. I worked from the cinema side. Yes, I was doing projectionist down over the summer, but I was ripping tickets. I was doing cleaning. I was managing cinemas in rural areas.
What was the footprint? What was the cinema footprint at its peak?
At its peak, well, so we had probably about 1,000 cinemas.
1,000, wow.
1,000 screens.
Wow.
But it's still, we've got a great joint venture with Event Cinemas, which have cinemas up here in the Gold Coast. So we have a joint venture across Australia with them, and we still have about 52% of the overall cinema market here in Australia.
Right.
And it's like that old expression, the death of cinema, or has been greatly exaggerated, because there is still great energy, great films being produced, and when those films are coming out, it's still the same. I mean, I see my daughters having that same incredible emotional, visceral reaction to seeing a great film in a theatre.
Is it? Is there a change in production based off the end result of what that particular movie needs to achieve, knowing that cinemas probably aren't like 20 years ago, as in terms of attendance and these types of things. Is there? Do you feel that there's any change? Like they've got to go now big blockbuster to sort of go. If we're going to go cinema, we're going to go hard.
Yeah,
we have to go big blockbuster.
I think that's more the point. So cinemas, for big films and certain films, they're making more money than they ever have at the cinema. It's a huge experience, and we do know that particularly for larger films, they need that cinematic release to actually make sure that they have a long lifespan and be able to exploit the title in different life cycles through the journey. But there are certain films, like comedies, are much harder to make, which is really frustrating because I'm sure, like yourself, I grew up watching great comedies in cinemas.
Yeah.
And watching great comedies in cinemas.
Yeah.
With that shared experience with people laughing around you. Yeah. There's nothing like it.
Something About Mary, I remember watching, and that was just
exactly. Dumb and Dumber, all of these great. There was a halcyon period there that just would make it harder. But also dramas, things like that potentially are not a necessity to see in cinema because they will be coming on streaming at some point. So it is interesting. I'd like to think that that'll continue to evolve. It's interesting where we've seen, as I said, people can foreshadow the death of something so easily, but really, there's a lot of research coming out now. There's actually saying that the younger generation, this Gen Z, actually is much they're actually having a revision and a renaissance in terms of their love for cinema.
Really?
Because it is that shared experience.
Right.
So I think that, with smartphones and everything and everyone being caught up in doing what they're doing, by themselves.
Yes.
Having something where you've actually, and you think that, and this is almost counterintuitive because we've been told for so long that attention spans are, being destroyed, and they are to some degree.
Yeah.
But there is actually almost a yearning for that shared experience in a theatre with your friends, without your phones, everyone just enjoying something together.
Yeah, there's definitely, that definitely makes sense. The attention span, at the moment, the Instagram algorithm suggests it's an 8-second average attention span. You've got 3 seconds to get someone's first attention. That's only going down. I can only see that going down. I don't think it's going to increase. I heard a quote on the back end of COVID. I think it was Steven Spielberg to Tom Cruise after Top Gun 2, saying, "You save cinema."
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? That movie was kind of like the catalyst to go. We're back.
I would have to say,
We're back.
It was. And what he did during that time, because that was a time where
he delayed it too, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But he delayed it, and really, that was a point during that COVID period where this sort of Damocles that have been hanging over the cinema industry's head for years, which was its windows, the time between its first release and then its release on home entertainment, was collapsed.
Right.
Because they, and the argument from the studios was they had to do it because they had to get the films out to someone, and to be able to get a return on those films. But there've been talk about doing it for years. Is
that pressure from financiers?
It's pressure from the studios because they do believe at the moment with the cinemas, they're sharing up to 50-55% with the cinemas.
Right.
And then if they're releasing on home entertainment,
they get
a much bigger cut. So that happened, but it was a positive a positive and negative to that, because the fact that happened forced them to realise, forced them to try this new model, and it was a disaster for them. So film after film after film, because it didn't have that big theatrical release, didn't play that well into home entertainment, didn't play that well onto streaming and other platforms down the line.
Right.
But it was really Tom Cruise had just refused to allow it to move to streaming, and it was 2 years too late.
Yes.
I remember when this was all kicking off at the start of 2020, and I was walking into an investor presentation because we were still public at that point, and I knew they were going to ask me about this, and so I did, worked out got some figures about what the coronavirus at that time was going to, how it was going to impact us.
This was early on?
This was early on. This was the first week sort of just sort of been talking.
Right. So no one knows anything
It hadn't
yet.
really hit Australia yet. It was happening in China. And, so we estimated that we wouldn't get any tourists from China for about 3 months.
Right.
And then I got the terrible news that Tom Cruise had delayed Top Gun for 2 months.
Right.
It actually ended up being delayed for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can come back to that.
Did let's before we get into that, let's just go back. So I'm still keen to understand your journey and
Sure.
and so those early years.
Yeah.
So you did mention that you thought potentially it wasn't a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
Was there any outside of movie? Was there anything that you sort of considered outside of the movie business?
Look, there was. So it was what I wanted to do all through my younger years, and I did everything I could do to work towards that. But as I mentioned before, we were already a public company. It was a large size company, and really, I needed to actually have something to offer. So obviously, I had my challenges at school because.
How were you at school?
Well, I was reflecting on this recently, actually, because I've got 3 daughters now, and I try to see, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Basically, my wife and I have got this thing where anything good that one of my children do, that's one of her traits. Anything bad was me.
Right.
But
Sounds
I
standard.
was a contradiction, I guess, at school. So I was only through COVID probably diagnosed with ADHD. But it was my mother said it was always pretty damn obvious there.
Right.
But look, there were certain subjects, certain years that, I'd be topping everything, be fantastic. And then the larrikin part of me would come in and I'd sort of pull back,
Right.
Get into a lot of trouble. Fortunately, I sort of figured myself out and got myself back on track for final year at school and duxed English and a few other subjects. So,
Right.
but still end up having fun.
Yeah.
I sort of lost my way a little bit in that first year out of school.
Yeah.
But came back and
Did you go to uni?
Yeah. I went to Melbourne Uni.
Yeah. What did you study?
I studied commerce at Melbourne Uni, and that was I didn't actually finish that degree because it was a mixture of starting a couple of little internet companies. It was around year 2000.
Yep.
Thinking I'm going to become an internet billionaire.
Yes.
So I'd already plotted out my life.
What were they?
It was actually, believe it or not, it was a free internet service back then, but it was based on a CD-ROM. You'd have a bunch of ads on a CD. This is really going back, and it sounds so archaic now. But it was paid for advertising on a CD-ROM, and you just have an interstitial ad pop up every, couple of megabytes or whatever it was at that time. But it was amazing experience because I got to got a deal signed with Myer. I went over to the US. I presented with, I presented over at Microsoft. This was all a 20-year-old kid. So
Wow.
so
Operational business.
Yeah. So, but then unfortunately the
.com
boom bust happened. But right at that time, because I was going to be an internet billionaire, of course,
Yes.
I decided to move up to Queensland to do IT at Bond.
Right.
So I came up, did IT at Bond, had a amazing time, really fell in love with
What
the
year
coast.
were you there?
I was there, 2001.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I was there 01 to 03.
Oh, we might
I
have crossed
I did
over.
film and television.
Yeah, right. I
was expecting you to say.
I should have done that.
Yeah.
I look back on it now, and my wife's doing some lecturing in the film and television school at the
Is
moment.
she? Oh,
and I
right.
look at that and I think, damn, I wish I could have done that. But yes, so I actually met my wife at Bond.
Oh, right,
At a toga party on campus.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's a very romantic story.
Yes.
So after that, I came back. I did Master of Applied Finance at Macquarie University, which was one of the top finance courses in Australia.
Yep.
And then after that, again, just because I needed some external experience and I wanted to see what else is out there, I got into investment banking. So I applied for a bunch of firms and I was fortunate enough to get in with UBS.
All right.
And I spent an amazing 5 or 6 years with UBS in investment banking.
Did you? In Sydney?
In Sydney and Melbourne.
Right.
So I worked between the two. And it was an extraordinary period, incredibly...
So investment banking in the early 2000s, was it? Oh, mid-2000s?
Right. Sorry, about 2005, around there.
Right.
So we were working on...
What was that like at the time?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of... Because I was working in the media technology M&A space. So we were working on the PBL at the time, PBL demerger into Nine and the gaming company.
Right.
So we worked on that. We worked on the subsequent sale to CVC. We worked on Seven and West Media combination, some Foxtel deals. So it was just extraordinary, and I was so fortunate to work with some really incredible people that taught me so much.
Right.
It worked bloody hard.
Yeah.
And cost me my relationship with my... It ends up okay because I'm back with it.
Okay.
My now wife.
Spoiler alert. Yes.
But yeah, I mean...
Because it's hard... I mean, that investment banking world in Sydney and Melbourne, it's...
You'd come home, change your shirt and go back in sometimes.
Yeah. But 20-hour days.
But it was... I'm so fortunate to have that because not only did I get to work with great people, I got to understand different management styles, different ways of looking at things, but also that... I guess a little bit of that sales technique in terms of going in, pitching ideas to people, and bring them along on the journey. So it was an incredible period. Then I came back into Village, went to.
So the GFC, did that have any impact on you? That would have been around that time.
I left just before the GFC, and came back into Village.
Right.
And
in what role? What capacity?
So I was in strategic operations, and it was floating around a little bit.
Did you think that? At some level, did you think by going at that sort of external? When I say external, away from Village, that experience with the banks, in some way, was preparing you for a potential reintroduction to Village?
100%.
Yeah, right.
Completely.
So it's a bit of a training ground for
what
me,
was coming. That's the way. There was no discussion around that, but that was the way I treated it, in terms of...
And was that because it was a public company, it's kind of, you had to prove that you had not only the experience, but the talent worthy to get into the business?
It's funny, it's definitely a component of that. It was absolutely. Yeah. So I'd be lying if I didn't say there was, just actually to be able to come in and, have something behind me and say, I've done something externally. So absolutely. But I think it was also because I loved this company so much, I wanted to build that skill set in terms of, I knew, the financial component of our business and the M&A side of things and the growth side of things. I mean, we had, we've gone through we're in a business that has contracted and expanded so many different times, and there's been good reason for that, but also there's been some probably poor decisions on some of those things.
Right.
And I guess I wanted to bring that extra level of rigor and and challenging ideology to what we were doing. And also it was wonderful, the fact that because I'd been on the other side, on the investment banking side, I knew the lingo. I knew what people, when people were pitching something to us, I knew all the tricks of the trade then. So it was great.
And that also would have quite a insight into the back end movie business.
Yep.
Obviously, it's about making money.
Yeah.
Big dollars go into these productions, 150, 200, 250 million. Just talk us through how that in very high level, if a production of a movie is 200 million, for example, there's one being filmed at the moment at Movie World with Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
What's the budget for that?
I don't know, because I think I need to clarify that, because people see our studios. We've got really very little to do with the actual making of those films.
Right.
So we're not putting up any capital to
Right,
that.
okay.
We've been in film production, so we had a period of, we've been in Australian film production, and we still will do certain projects there.
Mm-hmm.
We had a period where we expanded enormously into the US, where we started a production company over there with Warner Brothers.
Right.
It was a co-financing production company over there, and we had incredible success. Films like The Matrix, Ocean's 11,
Wow.
Great Gatsby, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
Wow.
and numerous others.
Yeah.
You notice I only mentioned the ones that actually worked.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the ones that didn't.
Yeah.
Because it is a really fickle business.
Yeah.
And we end up selling out of that business in about 2018, just because it was good timing for us, because it was just, it's a business that is so fickle and so, and with it, as you mentioned before, with the changing landscape, it's really hard. It can be a really hard business. So we're not really involved in the film production side anymore, and our studios are here on the
So are you basically just letting space?
Correct.
Essentially.
Correct.
Right.
So it's considerably less sexy than what people anticipate.
Yeah. Right. So if we stick with that topic just for one more second, the production value, when you see 200 million for these movies that the cost to produce, I'm assuming majority, 50, 60 million of that might be marketing. So it might be...
No, there's usually...
they're on top.
Marketing on top of that.
So there's a production fee, which is actors, cost to produce.
Yep. A lot of it's in the set building. A lot of it's in the enormous amounts in the post-production, special effects. But yeah, you're talking... And the worst part about it is if you're spending... There's sort of a general rule of thumb that if you spend 200 million on the production of a film, you're going to be spending somewhere between 100, 150, 200 on the marketing and promotion of that film.
Wow, is that right? So 50%.
Yeah.
So, and what is the expectation on return on that?
Well, everyone,
because if you're in for 400 and you say you after 12 months it's generated 500 million, for example, you go, $100 million return, that looks pretty good.
Well, it's also you've got to take out the fact that, say, if 300 of that was made at the cinemas, well, 150 of that goes to the exhibitors. So you're down 500, down to 350.
Yeah, so it doesn't look so good.
It doesn't look so good, but you've got to take into account that there are the theatrical release is only a small part of the overall monetization of that film. So then you have the streaming revenue, the premium video on demand revenue before the streaming revenue, before the TV revenue, before any other
merchandising, licensing.
Yeah, correct. Yep. And also the value of that sitting in your library too. So they build up studios will build up a library that is incredibly valuable and will still be paying dividends and returns for 20, 30 years into the future.
Right, okay.
So there's also value in building up that library, which in itself can become quite valuable. So there is no one. Everyone wants to spend, do the next Blair Witch project, which I think cost $5 million and made 200. But I think, look, if they can make money back on at the theatrical side, if they can make the money back on the theatrical side, then it's a good outcome.
Right, okay.
So,
and then it just keeps paying itself for the next 10, 20 years.
Correct. Yeah.
I saw just over the weekend, The Rock did his
Smashing Machine
passion project by the looks of things, and it's performed quite bad. Well, I think it's generated $6 million or something, a $50 million production. If you see those figures early on coming in, opening weekend, is that super important?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you haven't made opening weekend, is it doom and gloom?
And to some extent, the week before.
Oh, really? In pre-sales?
The week before in tracking, in terms of there's a lot of research that is put out there in terms of tracking, want to see, and the excitement to see. Awareness of the product and want to see it.
Right.
And then pre-sales open a week before. I can tell you, Not that it's the same audience, but
Yeah.
it went up against Taylor Swift's album
Oh,
release,
yes, I did
which
see
was at
that.
the cinema, and that I think did 3-4 million.
Yeah.
A box office in Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it can be all over the shop.
Yeah.
But again, I was really disappointed with that because it's an A24 film, which
Yeah.
is a great production company.
Yeah.
And you want to see original. As a film lover, I want to see original productions.
Yeah, and it seemed to do well in I think at Cannes it seemed to do well, but is that more just of a industry pat on the back?
It is,
Yeah.
and so you see a lot of films do fabulously at awards, terribly at box office, and I can tell you, the director might be quite happy with that, but then
he's
again,
already been paid.
Yeah, but again, it does impact their, potential
The next
bankability
project.
for the next film. But
Yeah.
it's nice if you can get both.
So you're in the business. You're in a strategic role.
Yeah, and I worked on a few M&A deals at the time. We were looking at water parks in the US.
Yeah.
Closed a few of those.
So M&A, mergers, acquisitions.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So we did a few deals internationally at that time, which I was running. But then I got back into much more of an operational role across the whole group. So really sort of, I guess, shadowing our group CEO at that time, Graham Burke, who this incredible story. We started working with my grandfather when he was 18 years old.
Right. Really?
And, he would have been 65, 70 when I started working closely with him.
Wow.
And just incredible person, just built the most amazing relationships all around the world. And really, it was just incredible person.
Right.
Great visionary and just, someone, he rode me very hard.
Right.
So
Did
he's
he?
a great mentor
Yes.
to work for. And I still speak to him twice a week.
So he's retired.
He's retired now,
Yeah.
but
He lives on the coast.
No. He's Melbourne based.
Melbourne
He was
based.
Melbourne based, and he's a part owner in the business too.
Yeah.
So
And so at that time, you mentioned before the business sort of peaks and troughs. Where was it at that time?
I think
opinion?
we definitely through the GFC that did hit us. So I was out of investment banking, came back into the business, probably a pretty difficult time. We'd also contracted during that period. I think we were in a period of contraction because, as I mentioned before, we had cinemas in 22 countries, which was way too many. And you can't take a homogenised view of building anything, let alone cinemas, which have different tastes and whatnot. So we had some great early success, particularly in Asia.
Did you have presence in 22 countries?
Yeah.
You had physical cinemas and people on the ground.
People on the ground, yeah.
Wow.
So it was incredibly difficult to manage, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I guess the
Predominantly Asia? All over?
Asia, Greece, Argentina, Spain, just everywhere. So again, I think it was and it was off the back of that late 90s sort of explosion in cinema, which was just so an incredibly exciting period.
Yeah.
As the halcyon days of cinema, but. So we had to extract ourselves from a lot of those because there was some onerous leases there, and so that was a difficult period for the business. And at that point, as I mentioned, difficult period for the business. But again, that's been the nature of our business right through since the 1950s, where we have gone these peaks and troughs, but we've always survived, and that's a big part of who we are and what our DNA is, and finding a way through difficult situations and finding new paths to conquer. So, and it's interesting, there was a lot of that in terms of that, self-belief in what we're doing, and I'll come to when we talk about it through COVID, and just that sense that we will come through this.
Yeah,
and that was a very important belief to keep through.
Yeah, and so. At the time when you took the reins, how did that opportunity come up? And
so it's a great question. So it was about 2016. So I'd been back with the company about 7 or 8 years, working in different capacities, and at that point I was chief operating officer of the overall group. but mainly focused on the Melbourne operations.
Right. And what was Melbourne at that time?
So Melbourne was our cinema company, so Village Cinemas.
Yep.
And our distribution company which is Roadshow. And so that was sort of my main focus. We also had a loyalty business, which I was looking after too.
How did the theme parks sort of fit in at that point? Was it being sort of Melbourne based, and were the theme parks were they, in terms of a focus, was it like, oh, well, that's on the Gold Coast?
No. So I even at that time, I was coming up to the Gold Coast probably once a month for regular board meetings or other discussions that we were having. So I was still very much involved.
Right.
And I had been for years. I spent probably a lot of 2014, 2015 in China looking at opportunities there. In fact, we were very close to signing something, and then COVID happened.
Right.
But,
oh, really?
Yeah.
As in opening a park there?
Yeah. And we're still looking at things. But so I was heavily involved with the team up here, but just not on a day-to-day operational component, and really speak to the key people up here 5-6 times a week on different matters. But we had a wonderful gentleman running the group there he was an American chap who'd been there he'd been in the industry for about 35, 40 years. And so certainly in my view, no one knew more about the industry than him.
Sure.
And he'd been with us for about 8 or 9.
What was his name?
Tim Fisher.
Right.
But, and look, Tim did some great things for our business, but he had a very unique leadership style in terms of very much top down. You do
Old
this,
school.
you do that, you do that, you do that. That's it. But after at the end of 2016, we had that terrible Dreamworld tragedy.
Yes.
Where 4 people died.
Yep.
I still remember getting the phone call about that and trying to work out what this actually means for us. And I guess nobody did. But it was the first time that what was seemed as a incredibly safe place to take your family. It put that element of fear in people's minds. And that was obviously amplified by the media, some of it for good reason, but it also sold newspapers.
Yep.
So it was a really difficult time.
How long did that last?
That lasted a good couple of years.
Yeah, really?
So, look, we knew it would come back at some point, but again, we wanted to see what was, okay, right, reset, okay, we're in a terrible situation right now.
Yeah.
Over to you, Tim, in terms of where are we headed? What have we got to look forward to in the next 2 years?
Right. This is 2017?
2016.
2016.
Still 2016, yeah.
Yep.
And at that point, I still remember the meeting very clearly. He said, look, we'll never get back to where we were. And the only option to stay afloat is to get rid of 30-40% of staff and shut the park on certain days or rotate rides, just really run it as a much smaller operation.
Wow.
And obviously we pushed him on that. I flew up and had a couple of meetings, and that was it. That was the only option. So based on that, I decided that he wasn't the right person to take us forward in this more challenging, choppier waters that we're heading into.
Sure.
So, and look, we didn't have any. I was reluctant to sort of necessarily put my hand up for it, but I've been working very closely with the team, as I mentioned, for the last couple of years, and there's no one that's going to come in that's actually going to care about the business as much as me.
Sure. So
this is not going to be a quick turnaround. This is going to take hard. This is going to be a tough journey.
Yep.
So I came up here originally. Didn't know how long I was going to be up here for. I tried to do a commute with my family from Melbourne for a period. This is end of 2000.
So wife and 3 kids at this stage.
Wife and 3 kids.
Yes.
My youngest was 9 months.
Oh, okay.
So I was up here for 3 days a week, down to Melbourne 4 days, and then I moved it to 4 days and 3 days. And there was my wife that just said to me, "Look, this is not going to be a quick journey for you.
Yeah.
And we want to be part of it. We don't want to be you flying in and being too tired to talk to us, and we want to be here and we want to do this together. So
You mentioned your wife. She's teaching now at Bond.
Yeah,
What was she doing in Melbourne?
She had actually just finished. She had a very successful career on air with Channel 7 in Sydney. So actually, she started up here, Gold Coast, originally from Perth, moved to Gold Coast. She started up here in a little program called Prime Possum.
Oh, really? I remember it.
Yeah, there you go.
I remember it.
So she was the host of that.
Right.
And then she went on to Saturday Disney, and then she was doing the weather on the evening news, and then she was a late night anchor.
Right. Okay.
So it was quite amazing.
So that's quite a juggle.
Oh,
especially with 3 kids.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But I think once we had the third kid, she sort of pulled back from that. And so it's lovely to see her going back into that now and sharing her knowledge about that, because she's incredible.
Oh, that's fantastic.
On camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we moved up here, and I think it was such a seminal moment in my life. Because it was really, I was very comfortable with my life in Melbourne. I had all my friends from school, great house, places around the corner that I knew. It was my parents around the corner, lots of obviously babysitting from grandparents, which is great. But I was excited, but more so than anything, I was just passionate about, we've got to do something about, getting this business back on track. So moving back up here was a really interesting period, because although I'd been, worked in different facets of the business, taking over, that CEO role, it was a big step up for me. Mm-hmm. And I think...
What was the process? What was that CEO process? Was it an application process? Did you have to...
No. So I had told Tim he's exiting
and took over?
I'm taking over. So that was... So for that...
Great.
Because it was an internal part of our company, it wasn't a group role.
Right.
That was very clear, and again, I didn't take any extra salary or anything like that. This is because this was in a distressed situation.
Sure.
But it was such an incredible process from there, because, and leading into that decision around the former CEO, I spent a lot of time having, I guess, clandestine meetings with different leaders within the group up here, just to understand if they shared that belief that there was no way back. And, without question, everyone thought that there was a huge opportunity here. We will come back, we will come through this. They've got ideas, but they just need to provide an environment where ideas can float to the top.
Right. So he was basically just sort of shutting most things down, and it was his way or the highway, basically.
That's right. That's
right.
So look, it was an extraordinary period, because we really had to, and that's what I said to our key leaders at that point. I really said, look, we're going to write this story together, and I need you to help me through this. I can pull this together, I can help steer the ship, but we've got to do this together. And around this room, there was 200 years of experience in terms of theme parks. And so if we can't do this within the smarts in this room, and having really open, honest conversations, having the courage to change the playbook, and really, look at everything we were doing. So it was an extraordinary period of really deep reflection in terms of what the theme park industry was, and it really did feel like a stale industry. So we spent a lot of time looking at, well, firstly, we started this process of, it was called Project Voice at that time, which was actually, not thinking that we've got all the answers and we're going to, take this forward our way or the highway. It was actually about listening to, first and foremost, our senior leaders.
Yes.
And then our team members.
Okay. At all levels?
At all levels.
Wow.
And then our customers.
Great. Okay.
And not in any particular order there. We're not putting our customers at the bottom. It's actually taking all of those voices and understanding what people want to see, what are the pain points, what are the opportunities there. And so I remember if I think back to my childhood, watching those movies and that passion for movies that I had, looking through a projection box, watching Indiana Jones 1,000 times over. What is one of the most important things in any film is actually making sure that you connect with the protagonist and actually feel something about that character. and that's you have to have that that connection. I'm a huge believer in that, and so one of the first things that I did, which was I still remember this so clearly, the emotion or the feeling of this. Our team members, so the frontline team members, had really never spent any time or ever spoken to the previous CEO or maybe even the previous CEO before that.
Right.
So I knew I had to build that connection and get them to understand that they are part of writing this story going forward. So I started doing town halls. So I'd do one at Movie World and one at SeaWorld, and anyone could come. I had about 600 people at each.
Right.
And what I didn't mention before that is I'd never done a bit of public speaking.
Really?
So I mean, I've been in rooms of I can pitch to CEOs, I can pitch to this person, great. But
so now you got 600.
I got 600 people in there, and I just knew it was really important for them to build that connection so they actually understand where we're heading, because I wanted to.
You want to share the vision.
I want to share their vision, but I also wanted to help them build the vision at this early stage. I wanted to help them build the vision. I just wanted to make them sure.
So you wanted their buy-in.
I needed their buy-in. Yeah. I needed them that sense that they understand why they're here, why they're part of that story, and that they can actually
contribute.
Contribute. And so I remember walking out on that first day, and I had a little presentation, a bit about me, a bit about my history and what I want to achieve here and whatnot. And I remember walking out on that, and I was just in a theatre, in a big theatre, 600 people. I remember walking out there, and the thoughts that were going through my mind is, what can I do to get off this stage? I can pretend I'm throwing up. It was just absolute panic because it's that imposter syndrome and just, everyone's looking at me. I'm sort of just new in this role. And so I just started talking, and I have no idea what I said for the first 10 seconds.
Is that right?
Like my mind was in this spinning loop and, sweating and just no idea what I said. After 10 seconds, I relaxed into it. I stayed
Did you get into character? Did you get into a character?
And then I spoke for, without any notes or anything, I spoke for 45 minutes, and then I took 45 minutes of questions.
Right. What were some of the questions? Do you remember?
Oh, I actually don't remember.
Yeah, because you're talking. Fill me in, but staff from 15, 16. Is it right through to your management within 600 people. You're talking from all aspects of the farm.
Cleaners, everything,
right?
Security guards, operators, everything.
Yeah.
So
because I would imagine that'd be quite enlightening as a CEO to hear from en masse.
It's fabulous, and so much so that when I talked about when I started that, I was sweating and cold flushes and whatnot. It's now my favourite thing to do.
So you do it regularly?
And I still do it every 2-3 months.
Right, really?
And I love it.
Right.
And it's it's something I really look forward to. And pretty much by the third or fourth one I had done, I started to love it. And it was interesting. You asked me one thing I do remember, because I asked any questions, and actually I should correct myself, because that first one, the question time went for about 3 minutes.
Oh, right.
Because no one had a question.
Really?
They just weren't comfortable.
Right.
Now it goes for about an hour.
Really? And
it's little suggestions.
Yes.
It's, we've seen this. A person came up to me the other day and complained about this. And what about this? What are we doing here? And we actually do keep all those comments and suggestions, and we can action some of them. We don't. But it's also about taking about, this is what we're doing over the next 6 months. This is why we're doing it. And really getting them to feel, maybe if it's trying to improve operational throughput, about why that's important, or just little things about why we're focusing on different areas, making sure that they understand that they are a big part of the story we're trying to tell.
At what point did you notice, or at what point did that change start to take effect? Did you feel where the feeling started to change, the mood was changing, not only within the from a customer client perspective, but from also internally? Internally,
the mood changed very quickly.
Right.
It actually changed really quickly. There was so much, And this is what
like a burst of new energy.
There was so much, as I said to you before, because I'd come up here and I'd spoken to people, I could see how, energized and, chomping at the bit they were to contribute and be part of something about, doing something new and evocative. So that changed very quickly, and we certainly didn't agree about the direction that we're heading at different times.
Is that with your LT?
Yeah, definitely. But we had and I still think it's the greatest thing. I mean, I love it when we don't agree. If you're all agreeing, then someone's missing something or we're all bloody geniuses.
Yes.
And, I think it's probably the first. But a good, healthy debate is fabulous, just as long as once you leave that room, you're all 100%, this is the path we're heading, that's what we're doing. But because we also at that time, we were actually, one of the challenges with the structure of the business there was that we were in this ridiculous discount war with our competitors.
Right.
And so the tickets, we weren't able to raise our tickets by $3. So the tickets hadn't increased, ticket prices hadn't increased for about 15 years.
Is that right?
And so you're getting sort of the same number of people, but just, your yield is just diminishing.
So the costs are going up.
Costs are going
obviously.
up, your yield's going down because you're just putting discounts in the market. But it was like a heroin that nobody could get off. So one of the things that...
So this is 2019?
No, this is 2016.
This is still 2016,
so
right.
2017.
2017, right.
So one of the things that we realised that we had to do was actually value our proposition and properly. So we, along with all the little sort of the small changes that we're making from the experiential in-park side of things, we also looked at completely reimagining our advertising. So we had we spent far too much money on some great tracks to really bring that energy back into some of our marketing.
So tracks, you mean like music soundtracks?
Music soundtracks, yeah.
Who'd you get? Do you remember?
Rebel Just for Kicks Now, you know that one?
Yes.
I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But it was the first time we'd used something really contemporary in our ads. We used some incredible footage at that time. And so we're trying to contemporise the brand at the same time, premiumise the brand, because that was the only way to sort of get off that merry-go-round of people just waiting for the cheapest ticket out there. So we had to elevate ourselves above our competitors.
So you do that by adding more in-park experiences and
a little bit. We're definitely adding more. We just built the Hypercoaster then, which was an incredible. But again, there was no consideration about lifting the price with the Hypercoaster.
Right.
So it was actually thinking about, okay, we are going to lift prices. We are going to lift them significantly on our annual passes because that was something that we hadn't been able to shift.
And when you're talking pricing, do you isolate per park or do you have a blanket?
Mainly across the board. We have individual pricing per park. Our main focus is
Are they pretty much the same?
Yeah, pretty much the same, but the main focus is on the annual pass side of things.
Yes.
But that's a really important component for us. Now, again, with the capital going in there, what we're trying to do is actually tie price increases to significant capital inclusions.
Sure.
But also get off the discounting. So, I mean, when we put these, we didn't list it by $5. We went from 99 to 140.
Right.
So
significant.
Significant.
Yes. I think 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that like the Groupon era? Do you remember the Groupon? And it was it was 2 for 1 on Groupon.
2 for 1 on this and that. And
that was big in the mid-2000s.
It was huge. That was what everyone lived in.
Yeah, that's right.
And again, if you try to move your price by $3, the tickets would fall off the cliff. So
that's right, yeah.
We launched this new pricing, new sexy campaign, new names for our cards and, a whole suite of different initiatives that we put through. And we saw our sales not only dip, they fell off a cliff and stopped. Like they pretty much stopped.
Really?
So it was extraordinary. But we were watching socials at that point, and it was all consistent. It was all just wait for the Groupon offer, wait for this date, and they do all their price.
Right.
And we knew that we had to retrain the market in terms of what was expected.
It's very hard to go down again.
Yeah.
Once you put the prices up,
Yeah.
it's very hard to then come back down.
Correct.
As a business. So,
Correct.
So what did you do?
So we put, we thought we could just wait it out. And then I was getting a bit of pressure from the board in terms of what the hell have you done?
Over what time period? What time does a board kick in?
It's
How
probably
long?
about 4 months.
4 months, right.
4 months.
So they give you a quarter,
Give you a
and
quarter.
then they'll meet and they'll go, we need
And
some
then we need
change.
to look at this because this is obviously, it's just not working.
Yeah.
So we've got to adjust it. So I got out ahead of that and sent a note out to every single person on our database and said, if we drop our price in the next 2 years, I will give you a free annual pass.
Right.
And so I created my own little poison pill.
Right.
And posted that everywhere.
Right.
And just to say that we're bloody serious about
Yep.
this.
So we're not dropping. We're not dropping price.
Yeah, so we're not. And then so we waited. It took us another 3 months, and then sales started to trickle back in. And then a few more people were saying, "We'll wait till the end of January." That's what they usually do. Their next price discount. We didn't do it then, and then we started to see an evolution of, a return of ticket purchases, because it's still, you're talking about $140 for all year access. It was still a cheap proposition, but they've just been so used to getting it so much cheaper. Where probably our yield on those ones were probably down to $60
Right.
previously, because we're doing all these deals with other
Yes.
parties. So
And the annual pass holders,
yeah.
they're open to interstate as well, or only for Queenslanders?
We launched a locals only pass,
Yes.
which was a cheaper pass than the interstate.
Right.
But yeah, it's not a big
So the annual pass is it more designed around? Yes, you might have someone from Melbourne come up once, maybe twice a year, but most likely if they're coming up for 2 weeks, they're going to use it 2 or 3 times.
Correct.
Is
But if there are different, and we're actually trying to simplify our ticketing structure at the moment, because there's a 5 day, 7 day. It's a little bit too complex at the moment,
Right.
so we're probably going to simplify it a little bit.
Okay.
But anyway, it started to kick on, and then by as we saw through 2018 right to through 2019, we opened up our New Atlantis area at SeaWorld, which was the biggest expansion anyone had ever done in Queensland before,
Right.
or any park in Australia, which brought a whole new demographic to SeaWorld.
Yep. And what would that have cost?
That would have been about 65, 70 million.
Wow.
So there was three different rides
Right.
and whole precinct.
Yep.
Again, I'd hate to think what it would cost now because it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge for our industry.
Yeah.
But by the end of 2019, we were probably, I'd say, 50% higher than our best ever year.
Right.
Pre-incident. So we were flying.
Right.
We were flying. We had incredible culture. We had the most amazing EMPS scores.
This is only in a 2-year period too. Wow.
2-year
3-year period.
So, or 3 year.
Yep.
So we were really flying, great energy, and we were just continuing to
Strong internationally.
strong internationally. But we'd pulled back on our focus on international because it was not a high yield. So
Right.
again, we were focused on the fact that we've put so much money into this park over
Yeah.
so many years. We give a great experience. We have to value what we actually do. And to be honest, that was the message I gave to our team members too. When in one of those town halls when I was
Right.
talking about it, this is actually about recognising the value of what you're bringing to and the entertainment world. And so, but at the same token, I mean, we put a high price on that, but we got rid of little booking fees and credit card fees and locker hire fees and things like that just annoyed the guest.
Yep.
So we're focusing on the overall picture. So then, end of 2019, towards the end, the previous CEO of the group was looking to retire, and so there was quite an extensive search and discussion and quite a.
So what's in the group? So
the group.
bundle. What does that cover?
So that covers our cinema group, our production, TV production group, our studios, our roadshow distribution, which is the largest independent distributor in Australia,
Right.
and the theme parks.
Right.
So, which include the hotels
Yep.
and our Top Golf, Outback Spectacular.
Right. Okay.
So it's, but it was the opportunity to bring all of that together, including the head office. And so obviously I put myself forward, and because I'd had great success up here, it was quite an extensive process. But by the end of 2020, the board made a decision to appoint me CEO of the whole group,
Right.
Village Roadshow.
At the end of 2020.
End of 20. Oh, sorry.
End of 19.
End of 19.
End of
sorry,
19.
I should say end of 19.
Yes.
That's an important
Yes,
distinction, as we discussed before.
Yes.
So at that point, the head office for Village was still in Melbourne.
Right.
And obviously with our operations down there was a thought of me moving back to Melbourne. But, I built such a great life up here. I love the Gold Coast. I love my team up here. It's where I wanted to bring my children up. And it's also where I saw the greatest opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
So I decided I'll do the other opposite. I'll commute one day a week
In
down
reverse.
to Melbourne. And
How long did that last?
it's still
You
going
still
down.
do it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I don't go down there that often.
Yeah.
But it was, that was at the start. I was coming down to quite a bit more because I had this. I'll be honest. I felt like, this is not to sound. I don't know, but I felt a little bit like one of the heroes in one of those films that I used to love watching when I was a kid. I felt great,
Yep.
I'd turned this business around, got all these team members that I've got a great relationship with. We're we just got this wonderful culture. Everything feels great. Everyone's hi, g'day.
Yes.
It was wonderful.
Yep.
And I
Did you
thought-
feel your position? Did you feel your position?
No. So I kept that. I was doing the dual role because
Right.
it was, again, most
Hand
of
in hand.
the business was up here, and that's why I wanted to stay.
Sure.
And I saw the opportunity there, so I didn't see the need to change that. This
Yep.
is actually just adding a little bit extra onto what I was doing, and I had a really good team here.
Right.
So that's the other thing. I've got a really great, and I still have a great team.
Right.
But there was a lot of excitement about I'm going down to Melbourne. I'm going to bring all the things that I've learned up here to the Melbourne office, and we're going to have this great cultural renaissance, and everyone's going to get together. And I sort of started to do that. I had my first couple of town halls in Melbourne.
Oh, right.
Everyone was looking at me quite oddly. At least they all knew me because I'd been working there previously. But again, questions wouldn't come, and everyone sat in their phones. And
That whole thing. Oh, this guy from the Gold Coast coming. What was he doing?
Yeah, exactly. So, but and the extraordinary thing is, we were still a public company then, and I was doing. I think it was March. I think it was February, March. I was about to do a roadshow to all of our investors, shareholders, analysts, banks, whatnot.
So
And-
multi-city.
Yeah, multi-city.
Yep.
Multi-city. And I'd been doing them previously
Yeah.
for the last couple of years anyway,
Yep.
even as a...
So it just basically is it's an investor update and a roadmap of where we're heading.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
It was a really investor update and bank update,
Yep.
just to sort of reflect on the last 6 months trading,
Yep.
where we're heading.
How many would attend that? Are they
From
just in general? Is it a shareholders meeting that anyone can go to?
no.
No.
Sorry, no. That'd just be at the AGM.
Right. Yeah.
But no, this was really you were going to see the individual companies that covered your stock.
Right. Okay. So very tight.
and a couple of major shareholders.
Got you.
So really, the institutional shareholders,
Sure.
And some of the others. So it was pretty small.
Yeah.
But I remember I had to prepare. I had all my thoughts around the excitement. I'm going to great celebrating the success we've had up in Queensland and what we're planning to do across the group. But this coronavirus had just popped up in China, and we had to be we've got to be prepared for questions. So we want to look like we're taking this seriously. So
Yep.
I had my analysts do. Let's work out what this could mean for us. So I remember getting back, I think they said, okay, we're not going to get any Chinese tourists, and Chinese tourists were a large part of our business. We're not going to get any Chinese tourists on the Gold Coast for 6 months.
Right.
It seems a bit bloody extreme, doesn't it? I said, look, just put it in, just put it down there. I mean, it's like, who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
At this stage, you had no Australian impact.
No, absolutely.
So it was
in fact,
only a Chinese.
It was something happening in China,
Right?
And I think there were still memes going about it around at that time.
Yep.
No one was taking it seriously. But I walked into so as I was about to walk in to my first presentation, so I was prepared for this. It was going to cost us a couple of $1 million, maybe. But we'll be able to make that back elsewhere with, focus on the local market. That was going to be my spiel. But then someone told me that Tom Cruise has just pushed, sorry, they've delayed Top Gun, which was our next film.
Right.
And that was a big one because we're incredibly reliant on that, and that's out of this quarter. It's probably going to be delayed 3 months, so
right.
it's probably out of the financial year, so I've got to think about that into next year. Okay, what does that mean, in terms of the people I'm going to go see now? So I had to break the news to them that Top Gun's not... But we didn't think there was anything... Again, we were trying to be cautious. Anyway, I remember coming back up here, I was having... and it was definitely getting serious. I think Tom Hanks I'd just flown it back up.
That's
Tom
right,
Hanks,
yep.
So
it was building a bit of momentum. The fear was starting to...
But it was all going to be okay,
Yep.
and, there was still the discussions. It's only a flu, what are they doing? But then I was having a lunch, actually, with the tourism minister over at SeaWorld. I think it was a fundraiser lunch for tourism in Queensland. And then someone just sent me a message saying, you better turn on the TV. And the first thing I saw was they're announcing they're shutting all public spaces with more than 500 people.
Wow.
And it was just an extraordinary, smack to the face.
What do you do then?
Well, I spent a lot of time, thinking about back at what went on in that time. And, we've all got our own stories about it. We've all got our own trauma through that period. But, it just hit me like such a ton of bricks and just knocked me off my feet. Because I mentioned before that, I'd just been feeling like this hero, and a lot of my self-worth was attached into having a success there. Overnight, I went from the hero in the story to the villain in the story.
Right.
And it wasn't that being the villain wasn't the worst part, but the fact that that certainly wasn't the worst part at all. It was the fact that the thing that I was most proud of was being able to ensure that we've got a business up here that will continue to employ 5,000 people. We've got a huge operation in Melbourne, probably another couple thousand across all our cinemas and whatnot. And they're all looking to you. And that realization that you can't tell them if we're going to survive this.
Yes.
As it started to evolve. I can't tell you if you're going to have to sell your house, if you're going to be able to pull your kids out of school, you're going to have to find another job, if there is going to be another job. Everyone is looking at you for answers, and you just don't have them. And that was a really, really hard thing, because you can stand up there with all sorts. Again, when we're going through the rejuvenation up here, you can have that confidence, and you say, "We'll get through this. We'll do it." Because you still had a business. All of a sudden, we had no business, nothing. We were hemorrhaging money because we had rents that we weren't getting rent relief from. We had huge costs to keep these parks operational, or look after all the animals. I was doing so. All this was coming at me. So I had shareholders coming at me. I had all my team members coming at me. And everyone was very understanding at that time, I have to say. But that understanding quickly turned to anger and frustration. and I don't blame anyone for that. Then I had, other senior managers, concerned about, their role and what they can do. You had the banks coming to us, initially being very supportive, but then as it dragged on, I was doing weekly reports and weekly presentations of when we're going to run out of money.
Is that
and
right?
Have to shut everything.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then I was doing the same thing with government, trying to get exemptions for this or support here and there, and it was just running from one crisis to another. And I will say,
so at this stage, you were still operation. It was shut altogether. It wasn't restriction on. So it was just shut altogether. That was before the initial lockdowns.
It was before the initial lockdowns. Yeah.
So at that stage, you're thinking, well, there's other businesses that are still operational.
Yeah.
So there is still business in Australia that's functioning, albeit at somewhat type of restrictions. And there's no end in sight. It's not like a cyclone, it's going to be over in 2 days or 3 days. We bunker down, we shut everything, we'll protect everything, and in 3 days the sun comes out. Here we're thinking, we got no idea. Yeah. Is this? Did you at some point think this is really the end?
Oh yeah,
Like
the
world was going to.
I didn't think the world. I didn't think the world was going to end, but I had this. As I mentioned before, this is all I'd ever want to do in my entire life.
Yeah.
Was lead this company and have success. And I'm thinking it's going to die with me.
Right.
It's going to die with me. And I have to say it was
mentally, where were you mentally?
So I was not in a good space.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
thought. A lot of this, I did spend a lot of time. So I've been very fit, for the last 10 years. I take my exercise really, seriously.
Yep.
I had a disease when I was younger, and ever since it was a hip disease. Once I got that fixed, when I had my first kid, I went hardcore into my fitness, and I really focused on that, and it's a big part of my life and important to me. But I don't think I was at that stage mentally fit, and so I was very good with handling things when things are going all right and things are going fine, dealing with a certain amount of stress. But when all this was happening during COVID, I have to admit, I did not handle it well. So I was, because it's not just the people, all those people that I spoke about before. Yeah. There's also my own family.
Yeah.
And I wasn't being present for them, and I was drinking too much there because it was something to switch off all those noises at the end of night, and just going, I can't go to sleep with thinking all the people I've let down, and the difficult conversations I was having. So I was drinking too much, and I was really I went into my shell.
So did you stop training?
I stopped training, stopped doing everything. I said, I've only got to focus on this. But the reality was I wasn't being my best self during those. There'd be periods, and then there'd be periods like, it's all too hard and feeling terrible. And it was this period of feeling, I went through this stage of really feeling sorry for myself.
Right.
And having this self-pity and why does this happen to me and all this type of thing.
Did you think someone else in your position would be able to navigate out of it?
No, because I didn't think that. I'm not sure. In fact, I can't tell you if I did or not, but I think it was the situation was so dire. Yeah. There was no navigating.
Yeah, because it'd be impossible for someone else.
And I knew I was pulling every lever I had to and that I could. So I knew that part was going right. But it was at that point when I realised that I wasn't, although I was physically fit, I wasn't very mentally fit. Yep. So I spoke to a psychologist for a bit, but then I actually found a great life coach, which I still work with today.
Oh, fantastic!
And he's worked with a lot of, I think with Mick Fanning actually.
Yeah. Oh
a few other people, but it was just a wonderful person to talk to and understand what's important.
And what does he do? Is it about perspective?
It's about perspective, but it's also about digging into what's important and what do you have to, what structures you can put through in your day to help you actually, approach the day with positivity and good energy and try to, win the morning. But just, there's a lot of I mean, a lot of it is, can be a bit like a therapist where you're just talking and understanding why you're feeling these ways.
Because in your position, is it isolating in a way like a board? I'm not saying your board, but a board can turn.
Yeah,
and they turn to this. They whether turn to or turn on the CEO for answers or results. Did that happen at all? Did the board say, "Well, what are you going to do to fix it"? Or did you have support from the board?
No, I had total support from the board, and also at that time we were going through a privatisation with two potential private equity firms, and they could see the enormity of work that I was doing and pulling every lever, and we were saving things here, we were bringing things in here, we were applying for grants here. I'd cut my salary to zero during that period. We're doing everything we could do, but there came the realization that I had to work on myself, and so I did. I put an enormous amount during that period of time into myself, and I didn't treat it as selfishly doing that, because that was part of it originally. But I did, I don't have time to do any of this. I don't have time to do any of this self-reflection because I got to work on the business. Yeah, and the realization came that fact that you can't control this. There's no way I can control this storm. For God's sake, I've still got to captain the boat. Yeah, and I can't be a good captain of that boat through this storm if I'm not in a great place myself. Yeah, and building up that resilience and and showing up every day with that. Not necessarily. It's not about being super positive every day. It's about having the confidence that we will get through it. It's that Stockdale paradox, as you know, which is the equal balance of courage and confidence, and that courage to to accept and acknowledge the sheer horror of what you're going through, but the confidence to know that you will come through it one way or another. And
you had to, and that was part. The staff needed to see that from you.
Yeah, correct. And it was hard. I mean, we kept trying to do. We kept because they were stood down. They weren't. We didn't get them to leave the business. The staff were incredible during that period. They were amazing. The team members were incredible right across the business. But up here, particularly in our marine science, we could only have a skeleton crew on marine science. Right. But the rest of the marine science team turned up. Right. Because they wanted to keep the animals stimulated and whatnot. So. But trying to do town halls during that time, we were doing some virtual. It was a bit of a disaster, but it was actually just that idea that you're not going to have the answers, and I realised that very quickly that I'm not going to be able to answer. But it's about showing up and turning up, and actually being there and being that steady presence there, and allowing the difficult questions to be asked. Yeah, not shutting them down. So. It was tough. It was tough for me sort of personally in terms of, some of the questions during that time were pretty pointed and difficult, but they were coming from, real emotion, and I understand it. So it was, but it was what we built during that time as we're going through it, and as we've come out of it. Just that idea that our team. I say it about myself, but I extrapolate that out to my entire team. The fact that they had so long, they had to sit in that that valley of uncomfortableness for so long, and I was just, I used to say to them all the time, just you guys got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah, and it's true. It's just, and it's still
what makes you sometimes. Is that what I mean. Going through it, obviously,
you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. But it is. You have to look back on it as. I don't want to say a gift because it still haunts my dreams. Yeah. But it did. The resilience that it built within myself and our team members.
Yeah. What about you as a leader?
Look, I think it definitely shaped me. It was sort of the two major. It would be the seminal moment in my life as a leader, and I think that moving from that I guess perception, internal perception that I needed to have all the answers to what was going on. I needed to just walk out with a swagger and give people confidence, and to be a great performer on stage.
Superman.
Yeah, Superman.
Yeah.
That all crumbled really quickly. and for them to actually understand that no, we don't have all the answers. We're still figuring it out as you are. But I can tell you, we're doing everything we can. We show them that, for them to see that we actually care about them and care deeply about them, which we do. I mean, our team members, that was the hardest. I mentioned before, that was probably the hardest part of me, looking into people's eyes and not knowing that they'll definitely have a job into the future, or not, or the company would exist. So knowing that for them knowing that I'm going to do everything, put everything on the line, and I'm going to be carted out of here. It was really important. And yeah.
So it was on and off for 2020, 2021. Even I think 2021, it was lingering, but I think we're still under some restrictions.
Yeah.
We weren't really. At least we're open, albeit under severe restrictions on capacities, I would imagine. Don't want to take too much time up on the rest of that sort of 2021 year, but at what point did it then start to turn?
I've got to think. Also, 21 was actually worse than 20 for us.
Was it?
Because we were open, but we weren't getting any JobKeeper. So
of course.
We were open, but we're only open to Queensland.
Yeah, and you were restrictions on, I think it was 1 per 4 or something,
All of these incredibly additional costs, but we couldn't shut the park.
Yeah.
So it was actually, we hemorrhaged more money during that time.
Did you? Right.
And similar with cinemas, because cinemas we didn't have the product, but because we were officially open, we were paying full rent on everything.
Right.
So it was a really tough time.
So that delay in production, that was a delay in film production.
Yeah, so that was quite brutal. And then I should also say that, I mean, it became quite a political, hot potato up here when Palaszczuk decided to keep the borders shut.
Yeah.
Just prior to the election. Yeah. Which kept everyone very happy up here. The general population was thrilled that we're keeping the borders closed. I remember that. And so I think I was on the front. I think I banned her from all theme parks. It's on the front page of the Gold Coast Bulletin.
Did you?
Yeah. So
right.
Said a few other.
Because Melbourne, words, obviously, and you've got 2,000 staff in Melbourne. They obviously did it very tough.
Yeah. We did from people living up here. This was paradise compared to Melbourne. Melbourne was horrific. Yeah. What they had to endure there, and we're still seeing, I think, a
lag effect.
A lag effect there. It was horrific. It was the most lockdown city in the entire world. Yeah. People dobbing in their neighbours for having one extra person over. It was just something that you never thought that society would turn that quickly on each other. It was horrible.
Yeah, I think, and it's like none of those politicians are around today. They're basically, they've all, stepped aside. Yeah. I think in hindsight, touch wood, moving forward, I think we get a totally different response.
I'd hope
moving forward. Yeah. Both from government and our, and citizens. I don't think they'd be copping too much moving forward next time.
I don't think they would. I think it's going to be studied for many years to come about how we got to that situation, how we allowed that to happen to that level.
So we're 2025, about to head into 2026, and we're out at the park last week. And there's a couple of new attractions there I see, the Wizard of Oz. Reinvesting in the park and bringing new attractions in. What's that process? How does that start?
Oh, we could be here all day, because there is. I'd love to say there's a great science to it. I would say is we do a lot of research in terms of what elements are missing in the park. Say for SeaWorld, for example, before we built the new Atlantis area, it was very much go with your kids under 5 or 6. So there was nothing for teenagers to do there. So if you went as a family, teenagers would say, I'll stay home. Yeah. So I made it difficult. So that was a conscious decision to have a couple of more thrill rides there and have something for expand the demographic. Sure. There. At Movie World with the Wizard of Oz rides, we're looking for two things. We're looking for the throughput, increased throughput, because we do on big days we have a lot of people. And we want to minimise the the lines or the waiting time, but also we needed something for that, I guess, that younger. It's more of an aspirational, so it's one step up from the kids' rides, but it's not quite the thrill rides.
Right.
So it's just sort of hitting that sweet spot for families.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of that, and then there's a little bit of there's plenty of research and focus groups and things like that.
Right.
But it's very hard to actually say, okay, we're going to invest $65 million and we're going to get a return of X, Y, Z on that.
Right.
Which makes it very difficult because we've got wonderful
go and
private
get
equity. We've
you
got
gotta
private
go and
equity
get the money.
partners now,
Yep.
and trying to work through that. It's a mixture of, there's a certain amount of that you just have to replace, update, just to keep your baseline, and then you need something to every couple of years to actually kick that forward.
Right.
But we've got to, as we sort of look forward, I think we're just about to launch in December a brand new stunt show at Movie World, which again it's something that's harking back to more similar to what we had when we first opened. So I think the park at Movie World has probably gone a little bit more towards the comic books and just rides. This is we're trying to bring a little bit of that movie magic back into the park.
Very cool.
And so we're going to be focusing on that more. And again, I think there are opportunities to use technology. I would love to see sort of, as I think what we spoke about before, I'm not sure on camera or off, but about that movie magic and that behind the scenes. I think there's a great opportunity to do something in that space, because it's something I remember.
Well, the Universal tour is, I think I've done it 2 or 3 times. I can remember The Shark, I can remember Jaws, there were all those iconic movies. I haven't done it for 15 or probably 20 years, but I don't know what it is today, but that's a memory that lasts for me for a long time. And I think that behind the scenes, there was a movie I've been thinking of, The Last Action Hero. Have you seen that? And that was... Schwarzenegger. That was a classic in sort of showing that behind the scenes, sort of that parallel in the movie.
Unfortunately, we're given the confidentiality and secrecy. You can't really take people onto live film sets because they'd be on TikTok and whatnot within minutes. But again, just even showing some of how the special effects are created. We used to have one at Movie World with a part of the studio tour where you could fly like Superman, and it was very simplistic, obviously back in the early '90s, but maybe something like that. But we have to sort of we have to look at balancing our capital across all the different parks. At the same time, we're looking at other opportunities to bring in, whether it's additional accommodation to the Gold Coast. We've got SeaWorld Resort.
I read.
So we're looking at different things in terms of a possible Movie World hotel. I've just got back from the UK where I've been looking at some incredible technology that's coming out of there with holograms and music and just this immersive experience.
Cool.
So I do think that whole idea of immersion is going to be really important. I mean, everything we do as a company is really, it is focused on that shared experience, on that ethereal feeling of experiencing something alongside someone, hearing that squeal or laughter or something. I don't know if you've ever been to our Fright Nights.
I haven't. I did see the.
It's quite extraordinary.
I did see the activation there. It's for Halloween.
It's for Halloween, but it's a very adult version of it. You'll see 6'5" guys screaming and running out of areas. So
really?
it can be very intense.
I might check it out.
It's actually good fun. I mean, it's one of those things. It's when was the last time you actually scared? Watching a scary movie.
Yeah.
It's good fun.
The difference that PE's made into the business, private equity.
Yep.
Can you talk to that?
It's been wonderful. So I started looking at the process. So I was helping to lead the process of bringing a private equity partner in to privatise the company with ourselves, because managing all these different shareholders, everyone having their different opinions, having a 3-month horizon or less, having to react to a 3% change in share price because we had quite a thin free float. Someone could wake up on the wrong side of the bed, decide to sell a few shares.
Right.
Could be down 5% for no particular reason, but you're fielding calls all day. So it's a very hard way to run a business. And we did know that there was going to be important, capital we had to spend to solidify what we had and to grow. So we started that process before COVID happened. It was a great fortunately, I will say that I keep trying to look at positives out of COVID.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard, but I keep trying to find positives. But one of the positives would be that we were able to, I guess, have an audition with these two private equity firms during a really difficult period and see how they performed. And our partners now, BGH, were incredibly supportive. Obviously, very focused on what we needed to do to get out.
Had they come in at this stage?
They hadn't come in at this stage. They didn't come into the end of 2020.
Right. Okay.
So, but then even through 2021, when I said it was a much tougher year, they were obviously we were working hand in glove in terms of where we can save costs, where we can focus on different areas. But so it was such a close collaboration, and I still enjoy the process of the extra rigor and accountability that we have in terms of decisions that we're making. It makes us more disciplined in terms of what we're deciding to do, where we're deploying capital.
Right.
Because you can imagine across our whole group, there are lots of opportunities to spend capital. We really have to either balance or find the best return that we can invest in. But even through that period, we continue to build the Atlantis precinct. At SeaWorld, we refurbished, I think, half of our rooms at SeaWorld Resort.
Right.
Because I strongly believed and our peer partners were completely on board with us. When we get out of this thing, and we are going to get out of this thing, we need to come back with a bang. We need to come back to say that, this is, look what you've missed.
Yeah.
And to be, shout it from the rooftops and to come out bigger and better than what we went into COVID as. And so fortunately they had agreed, and it was, we worked through all those projects together. It's not easy, particularly with my team members, because there's a lot of requests for information. Sorry, I keep hitting that. A lot of requests for information, but I just think it brings a wonderful rigor and ideas and tossing ideas around with them, and we've had a great relationship. So it's been a joy.
And we're in the middle of school holidays, or New South Wales about to start their school holidays. Just isolating the parks. What type of numbers do you get through daily? What type of numbers are we talking?
Oh, well, Movie World is probably our biggest park, and through school holidays we'll do 7,000-8,000.
Wow!
There
at Movie World alone.
At Movie World alone.
Wow.
SeaWorld will be fairly similar.
Wow.
Mild, depending on the day.
Yep.
So, and that can flex up over Christmas.
Sure.
And that's why, as I mentioned before, it's the importance of getting, putting new attractions in that can actually handle that. Crowd load.
Yeah, and staff across the parks. Like we're talking like 3,000-4,000 a day.
Yeah, well, no, it wouldn't be a day, but that's across. It'll flex up to that over holidays, and, and we schedule across.
Right.
That.
Okay.
But again, it is wonderful. Just touching on that staff or team members. One of the things that I mentioned, I'm so proud of the amount of people, especially living up here on the Gold Coast. Almost everyone I speak to has either themselves worked at the parks, their sisters, their brother, their cousin, their best friend. Someone has a story connecting them to the park, or they're supplying donuts or chips or paper hats. I don't know, whatever. There's almost everyone have got some connection to the parks, and it's really wonderful. It feels like it's a great privilege to be a big part of the community here, and it's really wonderful.
Well, Clark, we're going to finish off with some quick fire questions.
Okay.
So, all right, first one. All right, so two questions. Favourite movie and one that you wish you produced. And you can't say Avatar.
All right. Oh, This is hard. Even putting one.
Yeah.
I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, so I better just
top
go.
5. Give me top 5.
Okay. So Pulp Fiction,
Very good.
Big Lebowski,
that's
Godfather
good.
Part 2, Casablanca, original Casablanca, and Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. Raise the Lost Ark.
Oh, very good. And one you produced?
Wish I'd produced.
Yeah, wish you produced.
Probably Barbie.
Oh, yeah. that did very well.
Look, you know.
Yeah.
And Mario's done exceptionally well out of that.
That did very well. The biggest mentor influence on your career so far?
Again, can be quite. It's always a difficult one because I've taken certain things from different people, but it would definitely. I would have to say it'd be Graham Burke, who was the previous CEO. I said just someone that embodied the entertainment industry. To see him, the passion that he had, the energy, it was just really wonderful to see. And how he worked me exceptionally hard when I was working under him, but it was a joy. So.
And one ambition that you're yet to achieve?
Okay, so what's still to achieve? So from a business point of view, I mentioned before, I do see the Gold Coast as the epicenter of our business, our world, our growth. I think there is so much more we can do in terms of building one of the largest diversified entertainment, theme parks, hotel, resort businesses, certainly in Australia, but have a unique Gold Coast feel to it, have a unique Queensland feel to it. So I think there's a lot more you're going to see into the future on terms of where we're going in that direction. And then a personal one, even though I've told you how difficult the industry is, I'd love to produce a film myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
That'd be cool. What genre?
I'm thinking. I can't help but go back to. One of the favourite films that I missed was Mad Max.
Oh, of course.
So I sort of love a bit. I'd love to go back to a bit of like apocalyptic Australians, but something very Australian. I think there is a great opportunity, and I'd love to hear more Australian stories being told.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Clark, that wraps us up for today. I'd like to thank you for coming on to Striking Gold, and I've enjoyed listening to your story. And I wish you and the park all the very best and great things ahead.
Thanks. Great
Thank
to see
you.
you.
Thanks.